Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. This is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and the entire planet from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. Our mission here at Reading with Your Kids is to help all families grow closer through reading. And we do that by introducing you to the coolest authors, the funniest tales, and a whole lot of reading inspiration for the whole family. We hope you'll help us spread the word by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Audible, Amazon Music, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show for you today. First up, Dr. Candice Childs is here to celebrate CC's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School. In our middle segment, we'll hear from Margaret Proctor celebrating cousins. What's next? And in our final segment, Trisha Gardella returns to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate Mouse visits the Everglades National Park. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Fart Boy and Reeky Dog, Dino Doom. Fantastic new graphic novel written by New York Times bestselling author Joan Holub, who's written over 200 amazing books for kids. It's school sleepover at the museum. What could go wrong? Well, how about this? A snack-fueled explosion of garbanzo beans and peanuts unleashes a stink so powerful it brings the dinosaurs back to life. Now, Fart Boy, Reeky Dog, and their friends are in the middle of a dino-sized disaster. They have to solve tricky riddles, find missing bones, and stop the stinkiest villain of all, Professor Gravy Pants. Because if they don't, the dinosaurs could take over. Or worse, they could become Dino Dinner. This action-packed graphic novel is bursting with friendships, adventure, and enough laughs to shake the museum walls. If your kids love superheroes, if they love dinosaurs, and if they love to laugh until they can't breathe, then Fart Boy and Reeky Dog Dino Doom is the book for you. Because sometimes the power to save the world comes from the unlikeliest place. Grab your copy today and get ready for a reading adventure that's truly dynamite. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Boston. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called CC's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Candice Childs. Dr. Candice, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It is such a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
I'm guessing that CC's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School is more than a little bit autobiographical.
Yeah, it actually is. It's based off of my own journey, which I thought would be a very great way to kind of showcase that in life there are some sour and sweet moments, which I've encountered in my journey. So I wanted to be able to kind of highlight that for kids and kind of use my story as like a conversation starter for parents with their own children.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the journey. Let's start with the sweet.
Yeah. So the sweet, I think, especially in the book, it represents honestly the growth, resilience, and my sense of purpose that I learned along the way of the journey. There's so many challenges that I have faced. I'm sure there are a lot of challenges that everyone kind of faces. And I think the sweet just kind of represents the part of your journey where you actually learn and you grow and you realize how strong you are, even though there are times you don't feel strong, and the fact that you keep going. And I think that really is the sweet part of the journey, as well as, reaching your successes that you're hoping for eventually, even if you have to try and try again. But I would say that's essentially what the sweet part of the journey kind of represents for me.
I I like that. I like that you classify, you put the difficulty, the try and try and try again in the sweet zone. Because I think that's, if our kids can understand and learn that, hey, you're not going to get it in the first try. The first time you try something, you're absolutely going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of life. In fact, you learn more from the mistakes you make than for the times you get up there and you hit a home run by accident.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. I mean, I think for a lot of kids, even myself, I actually remember as a kid growing up, I always thought that, failure was the end. But when reality, like, failure is that chance to grow and to receive feedback and to really see yourself go beyond what you even thought you could do in the first place. So I really think that growth really is such a sweet part that you probably don't feel at the time when you're failing and having to try again. But when you finally make it and you see the progress you made, I think that's the really sweet part.
Yeah. Well, we got to hear about the sour too.
Yeah. So, the sour really just represents, the challenges, the setbacks, the doubt. That can be very sour, especially when you encounter a challenge and you really start to believe in yourself that you can't do something, or you're not sure if you'll be able to do something. That feels pretty sour. It's the disappointment. It's, seeing what you feel is your hard work kind of going down the drain, or having to do even more hard work. And that feels pretty sour. So in the book, and even in my life, I'm sure other people's lives, like, the sour really is just those times where you find yourself in the valleys, where you've been trying and giving your all and maybe didn't quite work out. But, like they say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, which is actually kind of what this story is kind of based on. And so, that I would say is kind of the sour parts. Yeah.
We all recognize that, when someone gives us a word of encouragement, how important that is. But I'm wondering, were there any people in your life that said, yo, Candice, this being a doctor stuff, that ain't for you. That's pie in the sky. Maybe nurse or PT. Did you encounter any of that? And how did you react and deal with it?
I think it's funny you asked that, because it is true. And, of course, I won't say any names to be courteous, but I did.
Until they get back and you want.
Yeah. But what I will say is, I didn't really learn about or kind of imagine the idea of going to med school until I was in college. And I remember it was towards the end of my sophomore year, junior year, I had like an academic supervisor that I would go to. And I remember saying, hey, I kind of learned about this new career path, going to medicine, and here's my resume. What do you think? Do you think that this is something I could do? And I honestly remember that conversation like it was yesterday, and being told that you will never make it to medical school. And honestly, I was very shocked. That was how I felt. But when I left that room, I remember saying to myself, I'll never let someone tell me what I can't do. And I kind of use that as fuel to keep going even harder. Not necessarily to just show them like I can do it, but because I felt like I knew myself so much better than that person sitting across from me. And my resume I thought was pretty great. And sure, there are things I could work on, like getting more shadowing hours, with doctors and more opportunities. But I just felt like there was something in me, largely driven by my faith, that yes, I can do this, and I'm going to put everything I've got into it, no matter how long it takes. And so that was that experience. It was very shocking, very shocking. I never thought that I would be in that place. And, you mentioned about the power of encouragement. I think there's something that needs to be said about the power that comes behind people discouraging you, because imagine if I listened to that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here where I'm at today, and I wouldn't be, sitting in this place of actually becoming a doctor and a physician and caring for people. I would have been wherever else.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important for people to understand that, your words really can be so impactful in a person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's something that can really stick with a person or a child. And, if they don't have that sense of themselves, it could really kind of rattle them and kind of deter them from what could have been their amazing, impactful purpose in life. So that was kind of my encounter with that unfortunate situation, but I'm just glad that I had my head on my shoulders to keep going anyways.
Yeah. Well, did anybody, when you were growing up, did anybody teach you that, hey, no one has the right to tell you what you can and can't do. No one has the right to judge you. Did you have that person as a model?
Oh, absolutely. And, I would say there were two, which was my mother, my late mother. She unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. She was just such a beautiful soul. And she encouraged me not only to believe in myself, but to do even better than what she could do. Like, I remember one day, I was like 7, 8 years old. She got her master's degree. I didn't really know what that was, but I knew she went to school and she wanted to do something. And she looked at me one day after she got it. She said, you know what? Don't allow anyone to tell you what you can and can't do. Like, you can do anything. And I want you to go further than I ever had the chance to go. And that really stuck with me all
Mm-hmm.
these years, even now. And so my mom was such a big, big part of that, for sure. And then my dad too. My dad is such a big dreamer. I mean, literally came from the circumstances where, today, like, you never would have guessed where he came from. But he always shared this encouragement and trying to, like, essentially just believe in yourself and keep trying and keep going. And, there are so many times where I did kind of fail at little things at the time when I was a kid that seemed like big things, like not doing well in basketball and missing shots and, like, not winning the spelling bee. And he was like, no, let's go outside, let's practice, or let's do this. And that also really stuck with me. So I definitely say, like, my parents, my father, my mother, they really were such great models and really great people to really share with me that I could do anything and stay really encouraged.
Yeah. One of the reasons I asked is because I hope the parents who are listening understand that they can play the same role in their kids' lives. And, I think encouraging our kids when they're little, when they're middle school, high school, that, hey, you can do anything you want to, that you set your mind to, and anything that you want to work hard at. Instead of what a lot of parents would do is like, well, yeah, that's a nice dream, but can we be a little bit more realistic here? I say push the dreams, cause, kids don't need to stop and go to work at 16, they have some time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I mean, parents are in such a beautiful role with their kids. I mean, I see it as planting seeds. I love plants. I love gardens. I love trees. And even in my own apartment, I noticed that with the same plant, if I moved it in a different location, that it would grow even better in certain areas of my apartment. Same plant. And I realized that honestly in life, when you have someone planting those seeds of encouragement and you have an environment that allows you to thrive, and a big part of that environment are the words that you say to your kids. I mean, it could really help them thrive. And even understanding that struggling is a part of the process, and that's okay. Not only just telling them that they can reach their dreams. I think that's so important to encourage them, but to share with them your own struggles of what you went through. Mm-hmm. And to say, hey, I've been through my own struggles too. There was a time where I did X, Y, and Z, but I kept going. And now you see, mom or dad, this is where I am, and that's so powerful. Those moments where even you can kind of share with them encouragement through the struggles you've had and kind of leading by example. So yeah, I definitely say those things for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why I launched Reading with Your Kids, because there's so many powerful conversations we can have with our kids through the stories. You know, if you just come home from work and you sit the kid down and goes, hey, I want to tell you about a time that I failed. That doesn't kind of work. But if you're reading a story and it comes up and it's like, hey, you know, by the way, when I was a kid, I did this, and you know, it's just much more natural, and it's a great, just reading with your kids. It's such an important part. Well, wait a minute. I'm just a dopey guy who did magic for 35 years. I don't know anything. You are a physician. You're a resident in Mass General Hospital. You're focusing on child and adolescent psychology. How important are those conversations we have with our kids when they're young, continuing reading with them and talking about the books as they get through middle grades and into their adolescent? How important are those conversations?
Yeah, no, it's extremely, extremely important. I mean, so that's the thing where I'm at in my training now. I'm working mostly with adults. I do see a few kids, but I'll be going through my fellowship training in the next year or so. So I have a lot more experience once I get there. But even now, I'll tell you this, I really see, even with my work with adults, that there's so many things that stay with them from their childhood. And so I think it's really important. It's extremely important to have those moments where you're reading with your kids, or you're able to kind of share your stories and have moments where you can essentially have a moment of bonding and attachment. And I mean, it really is such a treasure to have those moments. And so it's very important. It's important for later on in life when they become adults, understanding their own emotions and how they go about things, how they navigate struggles, how they essentially persevere. I mean, it really matters, especially as the child grows up and becomes an adult. But even as they're children, as you're having these conversations, it matters because it impacts their mental health even early on in childhood. It impacts their ability to focus in school or the ability to socialize. There's so many benefits of essentially having these conversations as early as possible, because it in a sense builds resilience, and it builds, you know, a safe environment for kids to be able to talk about their struggles. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one thing that I'm sure parents would really appreciate, is if their kid actually really did come to them with their struggles and sought out their help, rather than the internet, TikTok, other peers who don't, of course, have as much life experience as mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it really creates powerful moments for there to be teaching moments, and also for kids to feel safe and feel like they're listened to and heard.
Yeah. Boy, you know, it's funny talking about your peers. I remember my son just came and visited with us for the weekend, and you just triggered a memory of him in middle school and coming home and saying, oh, yeah, my friends told me X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea how wrong they are.
Yeah, no, it happens. And I'm sure it does now. I mean, especially with technology and, oh my goodness, there's so much more access that kids have to things now. So that's why I think it's even more important for parents to build that environment where they feel safe and where kids can talk to them, and where they can have those special bonding moments through reading books with them and, you know, having those quiet moments. I think there's so much bonding and teaching and learning that could happen in those special moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, you know, we had a long, spent most of the last year supporting a family member that went through a very difficult health crisis, and spending lots of time in the hospital and with doctors. So I know that as a resident, you're working some crazy hours. Like, you know, I think one doctor said, yeah, we work 36-hour shift or something. You know, it's just ridiculous. So you're studying, you're going to school, you're working as a resident. I assume you have a life at some point.
At some point.
Where did you find the time and the energy to write a kid's book?
Yeah, you know, I get that question all the time, and it makes me laugh because, you know, it's It's interesting because you're right. I mean, as a resident, when you're in training, oh man, there's so many hours you have to work, long hours. You have different shifts, working through the night, working through the days, sometimes both. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I tell you this, it kind of gave me fuel during those times where I did have some time off to work on things that I was passionate about and that I loved. And at the time, it was during my intern year. I actually came into residency with the idea of, hey, I was hoping my program could help me with, writing like children's books in a sense of like giving me a mentor that I could talk to about writing the books and all of that. And so, there was some great supports through my program, which was awesome. But I really felt like when I did have those times off, that's when I essentially used part of it. I won't say all of it. I needed time to rest. I needed time to recover because, you definitely can't pour from an empty cup. But I feel like what fills my cup is writing. And so when I had those times where I had a burst of creativity, I would write. And so, but the thing is, a picture book is only but so many words. And so that was also a perk of that is because it doesn't take much. But I will say writing a picture book is incredibly hard. I don't care what anyone says. It's very hard. And I'm sure I will continue to work on my skills and refine them. So it didn't take as long to actually write the story, but going through revisions and drafts and thinking, does this make sense? And at the time, talking with my mom and other people who are educators, like, what are your ideas? That process is pretty lengthy. But the first draft and like writing it wasn't as time consuming. But the revisions, that was the most time consuming part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people don't, they look at a kid's book and they say, oh, it's like 32 pages. What? There's like 400 or 500 words. What? But you have to tell a story with only that many words.
Yeah, you have to tell a story. You have to convey emotion. You have to input lessons that are learned through the characters. You have to have a stylistic way of writing that keeps kids entertained and have fun, and then you also have to think about how do the illustrations actually help support the words on the page. So there's so many parts of writing a picture book that I am still learning, but was learning when I first started writing it. And I tell you, there really is so much, even in a few pages. So it's incredibly challenging. For folks who want to write one, you definitely should. But it's okay to understand, like, it can be a little challenging, and that's okay if you experience that.
Yeah. Tell me, are you working on another picture book?
Yeah, well, I am working on another picture book, but that's very rough right now, rough draft phase. So I'm not really sure exactly which direction I want to go with that. I actually was thinking about doing a series. Okay. So that's something that's kind of in the woodworks, but I actually have another book, I would say, that I'm working on for kids. It's an activities book. It's called CC Sour Sweet Adventure. And essentially it has 50 different activities in it, from journal prompts to mazes to coloring to, all kind of things. And it has a range of themes, from discussing careers to talking about mistakes and, writing down your ideas about what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what's a good friend. And all of these might seem random, but when I thought about this journey of you being a dreamer and trying to achieve something in life, there's so many aspects of that, like you thinking about the dream, absolutely, and writing that down, and all of that is great too. But then there's also all the other things that come with it, the support. What is a role model? What is a mentor? What kind of careers are there? And just staying inspired. So having those inspirational quotes that kids could color, and mazes and all kind of things. There's so many activities in it. So that's definitely what I'm working on currently. That should be available in a couple of months, is my hope. But we've been working on that. Gosh, I've been working on that for almost 2.5 years now. Wow. Like right after the picture book, I started working on this. And I've gone through a lot of revisions, so we're getting things together, but that's definitely what's coming up pretty soon.
Wonderful. Well, let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about CC's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School and find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few different ways. I would definitely say my own personal website is great. So it's www.candice-childs.com. So www.candicee-childs.com. So my books are on there. You can also learn about me and have my bio on there and all the things that I am trying to do, especially with my own brand, my own personal brand of Brighter with Dr. Childs, as I'm trying to really incorporate holistic wellness into everyone's life. And so there's one avenue. And then, of course, the book is available through Book Baby and then Amazon as well. So you can definitely check out those different places to find out more about me and my book.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Cece's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School. It's a great picture book from our guest, Dr. Candice Childs. Hey, Dr. Candice, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much, Dad. This has been such a great time. I've had so much fun talking with you, and I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about my book and also some other really important things. So thanks so much.
Hey, my friends, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the Fred the Snake series, written by Dr. Peter Cotton. Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever wanted to take your kids on an unforgettable adventure around the United States without leaving your couch? Well, buckle up, because Dr. Peter Cotton's Fred the Snake and Friends Explore the USA series is your family's ticket to adventure. From historical landmarks and bustling cities of the East Coast to the heartland wonders and hidden gems of central USA, all the way to the breathtaking parks and sun-soaked coastlines of the West. Fred the Snake and his friends are your guides on a journey filled with fun, friendship, and discovery. Kids just won't be entertained. They'll be learning about geography, culture, and the incredible diversity of our country, one adventure at a time. These beautifully illustrated books are perfect for curious kids, road trip dreaming, and families who love to explore together. So whether you're planning your next vacation or just imagining one, let Fred the Snake and his friends be your guide. Explore the East, discover the Central, adventure through the West. Fred the Snake and Friends Explore the USA, East, Central, and West by Dr. Peter Cotton. Great additions to your family library, because the greatest journeys we take are the ones we share with our kids. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Maryland. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her new picture book is called Cousins. What's next? Please welcome to the show, Margaret Proctor. Margaret, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. Tell us about Cousins. What's next?
Well, it was a kind of, it came from an idea watching my oldest great-grandchild and her uncle, my youngest grandson. They were always into everything, and their mothers were raising them together in the same house, so they were always into something over and over again. It just rolled all day long. They spilled cereal. They're climbing out, trying to climb out the window. They're quarreling and fussing. So the idea came from their activities a number of years ago. They're in high school now, so it's been, 12, 13 years ago.
Wow. Now tell me, was it you mentioned your grandchild before you mentioned the uncle. Was the grandchild, the niece or nephew older than the uncle? Was that one of those situations?
Yes. My daughter and granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter and my daughter had babies about the same time, and my daughter became a grandmother before she had her fourth child.
Oh,
and they were living together at the time. So the kids were always together and always into stuff. In fact, when I wrote the book, I dedicated it to my daughter Rachel and her daughter Sarah, and to the two children, Gabby and Keelan. So Gracie and Kendall came from Gabby and Keelan, the characters in the book who are into everything, while their very patient grandmother chases them through the house.
Now, what made you decide to become a children's author?
Well, I've always wanted to do it. In college, I wrote a book, um, and back in the day, we didn't do self-publishing. You had to approach publishing from the traditional point of view. And I submitted it to a number of publishers, and I was rejected. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not destined to be an author. Maybe I'm not all that good at writing a children's book. So I just gave up on it, and then I came back to it again because I thought, wouldn't Gabby and Keelan's activities make a great book? It would be very entertaining, and their grandmother would be watching them, and she would just be the perfect grandmother, patient, 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 patient all day long.
And of course, that was based on true life, correct?
Yes, it was. Yes.
How much fun was it for you to write the book?
It was a lot of fun. You know, sometimes when you write, it flows, and it just kind of flowed, right? It just kind of flowed from one activity to another. I think there are three things. They danced on the table, they got in the refrigerator, and they played with cereal on the floor. So those are the actual things that my great-granddaughter and my grandson did. But then I thought of other things. Let's do this, let's do that. And so the ideas just flowed.
And one of the things we love celebrating here on the podcast is intergenerational friendships. And I think that they can be so valuable. I was very, very fortunate. I lived just a few doors down from my grandmother, and her and I were the best of friends for forever. And we would go to the WWE wrestling matches together, and she would ride on my back of my motorcycle. And I remember when the first time she met my beautiful wife, she said, "My goodness, her legs start at her neck. She's beautiful." And so I love that this book is celebrating the friendships that you have with your grandson and your great-granddaughter.
Yes, thank you. And the blessing that a parent, or excuse me, a grandparent gets such a blessing from taking care of her grandchildren, because they get to relive their own children's development. And for me, that's what it was. When I've watched grandchildren, I remember my son and my daughter and the activities they got into, and that toddlers are my favorite age group for working with children, being with children, because everything is new and exciting to them. And it's such a blessing to the grandparent to have these young people in their lives. But in turn, the children are really blessed to have, as you said, such a very good friend that you can take into adulthood.
Yeah. You mentioned something that I love reminding parents about. The little things that we've taken for granted for so long, because we've been doing them for forever. It's brand new for kids.
Yes.
And there's so much, they're experiencing so much awe and wonder. And what a real blessing for ourselves if we can put ourselves into their mind and kind of see the world and experience these, what we call mundane things, to be the amazing things that they really are.
Yes, it requires us to stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wonderful, because you're in the moment.
Yeah.
You're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're in the moment. And I guess that's what toddlers do for us, among other things. They're challenging because it takes so much energy, but it is such a blessing.
Yeah. You mentioned that the inspiration for the two characters in the book are now in high school.
Yes.
What do they think about their childhood being documented in the pages of this book?
I don't suppose it's cool to be excited about it, because they're not at all excited about it.
Yeah. You have to worry about that. You have to worry about being cool when you're in high school.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And my great-granddaughter, Gabby, she's not even looked at the book.
Really?
And I think my grandson, well, he got a copy of the book. His mother bought a copy of the book and had me sign a little note to him in the book. I thanked him for inspiring me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat, neat.
He and his niece.
Now that this book is out there, are you planning to write more books?
Yes, I have 3 more ideas I want to take. I'm hoping to have one published this summer, and they're going to Gettysburg. And I really like that backdrop because one of the characters in the book, Gracie, is African American. And I just love the concept of her having a Caucasian grandmother and a Caucasian cousin. And they're right there, in part, discussing the Civil War at a level where a toddler could follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really looking forward to getting that one published. And then I have a couple of more ideas. I want to take them to a family reunion. And I think I want the setting to be North Carolina. My husband's from North Carolina. And when we lived there, I attended family reunions with him, and it was exciting. And then I want to take them to Sunday school with their grandmother.
Oh, nice.
So I hope to have 4 books.
Well, I'm excited that you're writing the book based in Gettysburg and with the Civil War backdrop. Here, my studios is in the neighborhood called Reedville, part of Boston. It's a beautiful little neighborhood. 2 blocks down, there's a playground. It's called Meigs Field. At one time, this whole area, this whole neighborhood was called Camp Meigs. It was a Army training ground for soldiers in the Civil War, and it was home of the Massachusetts 54th, and it was the first all-black Army regiment that fought for the freedom of the slaves during the Civil War.
Fantastic. What wonderful history right there.
It is. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and we have some memorials to those soldiers in that part of history and incorporated into the playground. And it's wonderful now that this neighborhood is a very diverse neighborhood with all sorts of folks of different races, ethnicities, and we all get along, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly is. I think the ethnicities make our whole culture richer. I mean, even if you look at it on a very elementary level from the perspective of foods, I mean, how many different kinds of restaurants are there in our country because of all the various ethnicities that wanted to share their flavors, their culture with us? So we've really been blessed in this country that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me, when you first, after being rejected by traditional publishers long ago, when you wrote that first book, to the moment when you opened up the box and you had the copy of your book in your hand, what was that moment like for you?
I danced for 10 minutes. Yeah. Where I think I said something like, look my book, and I danced for 10 minutes. Happy dance. No tears, just happiness.
Tell me, what advice would you have for somebody that's listening to the show that has an idea for a book, but I don't know, people didn't like my writing in the past and I can't do this, I'm not good enough. What would you say to that person?
I'd say go ahead and do it. I mean, if you've got a good idea, you have to execute it. You have to do it. And if the idea is good enough, execute it. And I'm sure that a person with an idea has shared it with close friends, family members. And if you feel very strongly, you don't need their support. But if you're on the fence about it, having their support would put you over the fence, and so that you could go forward and work on the book. Yeah. Write it. You'll know in reading it, as you write it and edit it, whether or not it really moves well, whether or not it's a worthy story. But try it, do it. You really don't have much to lose except time. Yeah. Yep.
We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Cousins, what's next, and also find out more about you.
Amazon. The book is on Amazon, and then I have a website. It's Margaret Proctor Books, so it's MargaretProctors, all one word, and it's .net.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Cousins. What's Next? The brand new picture book from our guest, Margaret Proctor. Hey, Margaret, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much for having me.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Atmosphere Press. Have you been dreaming about publishing a children's book, one that sparks imagination, creates bedtime memories, and maybe even becomes part of a family's story for years to come? The truth is, great ideas deserve more than a file sitting on your laptop. They deserve to become real books, beautifully designed, professionally published, and ready to reach young readers everywhere. At Atmosphere Press, you get expert guidance through every step of the journey, from editing and illustration to design, distribution, and marketing. So your book doesn't just get published, it gets positioned for success. Whether it's your first picture book, a middle grade adventure, or the story you've been carrying for years, now's the time to bring it to life. Visit atmospherepress.com to send in your manuscript and see what your book could become. That's atmospherepress.com, where your book can go above and beyond even your wildest dreams. Join us right now from the beautiful state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her Mouse Traveler series. The latest book is Mouse Visits Everglades National Park. Please welcome to the show, Tricia Gardella. Tricia, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Delighted to have you on. Tell us about Mouse. This is an interesting character.
Well, I've written a number of books, and I've always written standalone books. Mm-hmm. And a while back, I wrote a book called Absurd, Said Bird. And it was about a mouse that wanted to go to the moon, and he was going to bring back cheese for all of the other farm animals. And Bird kept, saying absurd. And then the problem was that everybody was going to help him get the stuff and build an airplane. Uh-huh. And that's why absurd, then the airplane crashes and Bird scoops him up. And when I got that, just the cover of the book, I fell in love with Mouse. Ginger Nielsen was my illustrator, and I'd never worked with her before, but I just fell in love with him, and I said, I have to write other books about him. So it took a while to come up with exactly what I was going to do, but in a lot of ways, Mouse told me what he was going to do.
Okay. All right. So the Mouse Traveler series, Mouse is traveling to all the different national parks. Am I right?
Well, he's going to go as many as he can. We now have 63. Uh-huh. And I don't know that I'll be around long enough to write all 63, but we're just starting our 12th.
Okay.
So, Everglades is our 10th. So there'll be 2 more coming up soon.
Wonderful. Now, where did your love for national parks come from?
Well, when I was a kid, the family used to go on one major trip every summer. And a lot of times it included national parks. But I think my biggest love is because I live right at the back door of Yosemite. Ah. So it's one of the most beautiful as far as I'm concerned. And though I have been to some other beautiful ones.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So Yosemite is your favorite. Tell us some of your other favorites.
The Grand Tetons, they're just beautiful. Mm-hmm. I like the Carlsbad Caverns. It's very, very unique. And Acadia is fun. All of them have been really fun. For one thing, I like researching. And when I dig into them, I find things that are really fascinating. A good example is the Grand Canyon. And I did not realize that the Grand Canyon fills up with fog So it almost looks like it's a carpet over the top. You know, you don't even see the canyon. And so
Wow.
that's how the book starts, because it's fun stuff like that that makes me get excited about a project. And my theory is that children need fun books. They need the information in there, but it needs to be fun to begin with, something that catches them. And one of the main reasons I've gone this route is because I think that picture books, which are the hardest to produce, most expensive to produce, and not the most popular of all books, but they are the foundation of readers. And if you build a good foundation, and what I'm hoping is that children that are involved with these books will see the importance, why we need to protect our national parks.
Our national parks really are a beautiful gift, and I'm happy that you're out there raising awareness and hopefully raising a generation of kids who are going to protect, and guard this national treasure.
I hope so. That's one of Ginger and I both feel that way, so it's our goal to do that. And now I'm being called National Park Grandma, and I really want to build on that because, we're both in our late years, and, it really fits us. So what did grandmas do? They share important things, I think, is one of them.
Great stories. Yep, absolutely.
So,
yeah. You mentioned Arcadia. I've had a chance to visit that national park a number of times, and my favorite national park, though, is El Yunque, the El Yunque rainforest down in Puerto Rico.
I don't even know that one.
Yeah, it's probably a half hour, 45 minutes outside of San Juan, and it's a tropical rainforest, the only one in the national park system, and it's gorgeous.
I'll have to look into that because I've had the list of them, but we are adding continuously. And that's my biggest concern right now is the administration that's in there doesn't appreciate national parks like some of us do. And that's what I want to protect against, is using them for monetary purposes rather than I think that it's selfish if we don't let kids and our grandkids and great-grandkids be able to see how things were. And it's also a good place that protects animals that are endangered. So.
Yeah. Tell me, you're as a children's book author, is this something that you always hoped to do, always dreamed of doing?
I think that I probably always wanted to write. And I've been a reader since I could read a word, and I just absolutely love words. I feel that you build with them, and it just amazes me what some people can do with words. And they're the same words that other people use and don't do so well. So I guess I didn't start writing until I turned 40. And my kids were grown, and I had a lot more time to do stuff and everything, and it's something I always wanted to do. And I didn't know till then that I write for 7-year-olds, basically. And that's my passion. That's what I love. And that's what, it calls to me, and I have to do it.
Yeah. Did you find it challenging talking about these, the national parks? They're huge, and they're filled with nature and animals and scenery. But a picture book, you're limited to 500-600 words. Is it challenging to, kind of paint a picture of the parks with so few words?
Well, actually, I have to confess I use probably closer to 900 words.
Okay.
And, it's a story about Mouse who's out looking for other mice. He wants to see the other breed, so that's also included in it. There's a lot of information included in my books. And then at the end, we have good back matter that has questions, tells you more about the park, and an author note that goes into probably mice or different things. But even if a park is huge, some of the huge parks I'll never write about because that's what they are, is huge and beautiful and a good place to hike. But it's not a place to really put a mouse. I mean, an adventurous mouse. And so what I've been doing lately, and I'm really, really having fun doing it, is adding more than one part to a book in occasional books, because they don't have enough there for me to put a real mouse story. But when he was in Yosemite, there was a bobcat that was trying to get him, and he picked up this acorn, and he didn't know at the time that it was magic, because he didn't know how to get from place to place except for on his computer. And of course, he didn't have the computer when he was in Yosemite. So he picks up this acorn, and he gets taken back home so that this bobcat doesn't get him. And later in one of the next books, he reaches into his backpack and he picks up he's wishing something, and he picks up the acorn, and when he wishes it, it gets moved there. So now he can move to place, and that's what's fun about this book, is all the things that you have to deal with, and it just seems like Mouse always tells me how it's going to work. So that's how we go.
You were telling me beforehand that he learned how to transport himself. Where did the idea of his method of transportation come from?
Well, I told you about Absurd Said Bird, which is what this book started with. And it was a perfect transition when Bird picks him up and he says it takes a rocket to get to the moon. So in book 2, they build a rocket. And of course, they run into the same problem because they have no fuel. And Mouse gets really depressed, and not really depressed, but he's depressed because he doesn't get to do this. And Bird says, well, there are a lot of places here you can visit. And he said, in fact, there's a place that I go. It's called the library. So he tells Mouse about this library, and Mouse eventually gets to the library, and that's the whole thing. I like the book a lot because it shows the importance of libraries too, but it's a fun thing. And first he watches kids, and he sees how that they can look at things on the screen, but he doesn't know how he's going to use it. And then after he's learned how to look up things, one day he jumps on Escape and off he goes.
Yeah. Neat. Very neat. You mentioned that there are two other books, 2 other parks that you're going to be visiting in future volumes of your series. Can you give us?
Well, right now he's going to Canaveral, the book that's just going to come up next, because he was in the Everglades. We talked about that's the latest book that came out. But while in the Everglades, Bird tells him that there's, he's had this passion for rockets because he wants to go to the moon. And the Canaveral is not very far from Everglades. It's 200 miles, but now he has his acorn so he can get there. Yeah. And so he goes to Canaveral, and it's the first time that he's gone from one place to another. Always before, he had to go back to the computer. So he's learned that now he has a little bit more control. And when he gets there, the Kennedy Space Station is still a little ways away from him. So he has to get there. So that's basically what the story's about. And when he gets there, he discovers that it isn't a really good idea to sneak into a rocket. It's not good for people unless they're in a really special thing. So it's got a little bit of that information in it too, but he finally gives up that part of it and realizes how special it is that he has national parks to visit.
That's cool. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Mouse Visits Everglades National Park, the whole Mouse Traveler series, and more about you.
I have a website. It's just TrishaGardella.com.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of the Mouse Traveler series. Our guest has been Trisha Gardella. Hey, Trisha, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Dr. Candice Childs. Please be sure to check out Cece's Sour and Sweet Journey to Medical School. Margaret Proctor, please be sure to check out Cousins, What's Next? And Trisha Gardella, please be sure to check out Most Visits Everglades National Park. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Sotalera. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better, more empathetic, more caring place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.